Have you ever been in a crowded room and felt completely alone? Have you ever known something was true with all your heart, only to have a stranger laugh in your face and tell you you're lying? That your reality is just a fairy tale. This is a story about one of those moments. It's about a simple conversation between two girls in a mall, a laugh that cut through the air like a knife, and a mother's love that turned a moment of humiliation into a powerful lesson on courage, respect, and the unshakable power of the truth. This story changed everyone who witnessed it. It was a typical Saturday afternoon at the Northwood Mall in Springfield. The air was filled with the hum of conversation, the distant scent of pretzels from the food court, and the gentle beat of pop music playing over the speakers. In the middle of a large sporting goods store, two 12-year-old girls were lost in their own world. Lena Davis was there with her best friend, Chloe. They were in the shoe aisle, a colorful canyon of boxes, trying on sneakers and talking about everything and nothing. School, music, and of course which pair of Nikes were the coolest. Lena's voice was light and casual, the way a kid's is when they feel safe and happy. And then, without even thinking about it, she said something that would change the entire day. She flipped a shoebox lid closed and said to Chloe, "My mom's gonna be a little late. She's finishing up at the base." Chloe blinked, intrigued. "Fort Gibson. Your mom's in the army." "Yeah," Lena said, with the same easy tone she'd used to talk about her favorite TV show. "She's a command sergeant major. She's in special forces, so her schedule is kinda crazy. She just got back from a mission last week. It was just a piece of her life, a fact she was proud of. She wasn't bragging, she was just sharing a part of who she was." But that's when the sound came. It wasn't a kind laugh. It wasn't a soft chuckle. It was a sharp, dismissive bark of laughter that cut through the air and made both girls flinch. A few feet away, a man was looking at hoodies. He was off duty, dressed in jeans and a football jersey, but he had a police badge clipped to his belt. His name was Officer Mark Jenkins. He turned toward them, a mocking grin on his face. "Special Forces," he said, shaking his head like Lena had just told the funniest joke he'd ever heard. "Come on, kid. Let's be real. I've been on the force for 20 years. I know a thing or two about real service. There's no way your mom is running around with Army Special Ops." Lena's face instantly felt hot. Her heart started to pound. "It's true," she said, her voice smaller than she wanted it to be. The officer's grin just widened. He took a step closer, and now other shoppers were starting to notice. A woman with a toddler slowed her cart. A couple of teenagers stopped to watch. They had an audience. "Look, I get it," Jenkins said, his voice loud enough for everyone to hear. "Kids make up stories. My nephew used to tell everyone his dad was an astronaut. It's cute, but it's not real. Especially not someone like your mom." The words hung in the air. Especially not someone like her. Everyone knew what he meant. Everyone felt it. The unspoken words about her mother's gender, about her race, were louder than anything he actually said. Lena's throat tightened. Tears welled in her eyes, but she refused to let them fall. "You're wrong," she whispered, her voice trembling. But he just laughed again. "It's a nice fairy tale, sweetheart. But that's all it is. A fairy tale." The word crushed her. Fairy tale. Her strong, brave, incredible mother. A fairy tale. The embarrassment was a physical weight on her chest. She looked at the faces of the strangers around her, searching for someone to believe her, to say something. But they just watched. They whispered behind their hands. No one stepped in. No one defended her. In that moment, under the bright, unforgiving fluorescent lights, Lena Davis felt smaller than she ever had in her life. She wished with every fiber of her being that she had never said a word. Her truth, her pride, had been turned into a public joke, and she was powerless to stop it. She was just a kid, and her voice didn't matter at all. But what she didn't know was that her mother was already walking through the mall doors. And the moment was about to change forever. Lena stood frozen in that aisle, the heat of humiliation burning her cheeks. She could feel every pair of eyes on her. Officer Jenkins was still leaning against the rack, looking smug like he'd just solved a big case instead of bullying a child. Lena's best friend, Chloe, was holding her sleeve, whispering, "Let's just go, Lena, please." But Lena's feet were glued to the floor. She felt like if she moved, she would shatter. Officer Jenkins wasn't done. He saw her crumbling and he pushed harder. "Tell you what," he said, his voice dripping with false generosity. "If your mom really walks in here in uniform, I'll buy you those sneakers myself. But until then, maybe keep the fairy tales at home, kid." Fairy tales. The words were like a slap. Lena thought of her mom's calloused hands, the quiet strength in her eyes, the flag case in their living room with medals she was too young to understand. This man was reducing a lifetime of sacrifice and service into a silly story. Her vision blurred with angry, helpless tears. And that's when the air in the store changed. There was a new sound, steady and sure, cutting through the tension. It was the clear, sharp sound of boots on tile. Blick, black, blick, black. Heads turned toward the store entrance. Officer Jenkins's smirk faltered for a second, his confidence flickering as he too was drawn to the sound. And then Lena saw her, walking through the aisles with a posture so straight and purposeful it seemed to part the crowd of shoppers, was her mother. Command Sergeant Major Maya Davis. She was in her full army dress uniform, the crisp camouflage, the rows of ribbons, the insignia that gleamed under the lights. She wasn't just walking, she was arriving. Her gaze swept the store, taking in the scene. Her daughter standing small and heartbroken, a crowd of onlookers, and a smirking man with a badge. Time seemed to slow down. Lena's breath caught in her throat. "Mom," she whispered, the word a mix of relief, shame, and desperate hope. Her mother's eyes found hers instantly. In a second she was there, right beside her. Lena felt a hand, firm and steady, settle on her shoulder. It was a simple touch, but it felt like an anchor in a storm. The weight on Lena's chest suddenly felt lighter. "Lena," her mother said, her voice calm but carrying an undeniable authority. "What's going on?" The whole store was silent, waiting. All the words Lena had struggled to find before now tumbled out in a rushed, tearful jumble. "I told him about you, Mom. About special forces. And he didn't believe me. He said I was making it up. He said it was a fairy tale." Maya Davis listened intently, her expression unreadable. Then, she slowly turned her attention to Officer Jenkins. She didn't glare. She didn't shout. She just looked at him, her gaze steady and assessing. The difference between them was stunning. He was fidgeting, his arms crossing and uncrossing. She was a statue of calm strength. "Evening, ma'am," Jenkins said, trying to salvage his authority with a stiff nod. "Just a little misunderstanding with your daughter here. Kids and their big imaginations, you know how it is." For a long moment Maya said nothing. She just let his weak excuse hang in the air, allowing everyone to feel how hollow it was. When she finally spoke, her voice was even, but it cut through the silence like a blade. "You mocked my daughter," she stated. "It wasn't a question. In front of all these people, you called her a liar." Jenkins shifted his weight. "Now, hold on, I didn't call her that exactly, I just said." "You just said her reality was impossible," Maya interrupted, her tone still chillingly calm. "You decided that her truth was a fairy tale. Tell me, officer." She paused, glancing pointedly at his badge. "Jenkins, what exactly was so unbelievable?" He stammered, his face beginning to flush. "With all due respect, Sergeant Major, it's just unusual, that's all. It caught me off guard." "Unusual does not mean impossible," she replied, her words precise and clear. "It means it's something you've never seen before. And maybe the problem isn't with my daughter's story, but with your inability to imagine it." The crowd murmured in agreement. The dynamic had completely flipped. The man who had been so confidently in control minutes ago was now shrinking under the calm, powerful presence of a woman who embodied the very truth he had denied. Lena watched, her heart swelling with a pride so fierce it wiped away every last trace of her shame. She looked at her mom, really looked at her, not just as her mother but as a soldier, a leader, a force of nature. And in that moment Lena understood. Her voice had mattered all along. It just took her mother's presence to make everyone else hear it. Officer Jenkins opened his mouth to say something else, but no sound came out. He had run out of excuses. He was no longer the authority in the room. She was. And the lesson was only just beginning. The store was so quiet you could hear the hum of the freezers in the back. All eyes were locked on the woman in uniform and the police officer who could no longer meet her gaze. Officer Jenkins looked at the floor, at the racks of clothes, anywhere but at Command Sergeant Major Maya Davis. The confidence he'd worn like a coat was gone, leaving behind a man who just looked small and uncomfortable. He cleared his throat, trying to find a way out. "Look, Sergeant Major," he said, his voice strained. "I said I was wrong. What else do you want? An apology? Fine. I'm sorry if I embarrassed your kid. Okay. That good enough." It wasn't an apology. It was a dismissal. A way to end the scene he had started. But Maya Davis wasn't looking for an easy ending. She was looking for a real one. She didn't even raise her voice. "No," she said, her tone firm yet still measured. "That's not good enough. Because that wasn't an apology for her. That was for you. An apology isn't about saving face. It's about acknowledging the person you hurt." She paused, letting the weight of that settle over everyone. "If you want to apologize, you look at my daughter. You look at the child whose pride you tried to strip away in front of a crowd of strangers." A hush fell over the aisle. The pressure was immense. Jenkins's shoulders slumped. He finally, slowly, turned his head and looked at Lena. His face was flushed with shame. "Lena," he said, her name sounding strange and stiff in his mouth. Sorry. I shouldn't have laughed. I shouldn't have said those things. You were telling the truth. I was wrong. It was simple. It was direct. And for the first time it felt real." Lena gave a small, almost imperceptible nod. She didn't say it was okay because it wasn't. But she accepted it. The victory wasn't in his humiliation. It was in her vindication. But her mother had one more lesson to teach. And this one was for everyone watching. Maya turned slightly, addressing not just Jenkins, but the entire gathered crowd. The teenagers, the mothers, the couples who had witnessed it all. "This moment isn't just about one man and one girl," she said, her voice resonating with a powerful gravity. "It's about how easy it is to dismiss someone when their story doesn't fit into a comfortable box. It's about how a child's voice can be silenced by an adult's assumption." She looked down at Lena, her expression softening into immense pride. "Lena, what you did today, standing your ground when everyone else was content to just watch, that took a courage deeper than any battlefield I've ever been on. You never, ever have to be ashamed of your truth. If someone can't handle it, that is their weakness, never yours." Tears finally streamed down Lena's face freely now. But they were tears of relief, of pride, of being seen and heard in a way she had never felt before. Her mother saw her not just as her child, but as a brave individual. Maya's final words were for Officer Jenkins, but they were a message for us all. "Next time you see a child with pride in their voice," she said, her tone leaving no room for argument, "don't you dare strip it away. Let them keep it. Because once you take that from a kid, it's not so easily given back." For a second there was silence. Then a single person started to clap. It was the woman with the toddler. Then another person joined. And another. Soon, the whole section of the store was filled with a warm, respectful applause. It wasn't loud or cheering. It was acknowledging. It was a crowd bearing witness to a truth that had been restored. Officer Jenkins gave a stiff, defeated nod and quickly walked away, disappearing into the maze of the mall. The crowd slowly began to disperse, the spell broken, but the lesson lingering in the air. Lena looked up at her mother, her hero not for the uniform she wore, but for the unwavering love and strength she had just shown. "Thank you, Mom." Her mother squeezed her shoulder. "No, baby. Thank you. Thank you for being brave enough to speak our truth when I wasn't here to do it." They walked out of the store together, side by side, The weight of humiliation replaced by the unshakable bond of pride and respect. The real victory wasn't in shaming a bully. It was in a mother showing her daughter, and everyone watching, that a voice backed by truth is ultimately unstoppable. If this story resonated with you, if it reminded you of a time you had to stand up for what's right, then share it with someone who needs to hear it. Leave a comment below and tell me what you think the most powerful part was. And if you want to hear more stories about everyday courage and powerful moments, make sure to hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell so you don't miss the next one. Give this video a like if you believe in the power of speaking your truth. Thanks for watching, and remember, your voice matters. See you in the next video.